If you watch a lot of review shows, you might have seen a red ribbon popping up someplace on the screen, or they might be wearing one, something like that. That's because we're all taking place in something called the Red Ribbon Reviewer Project. We're trying to raise awareness about HIV. Thing is, whenever I do a show like this, I like to try to tie it into the topic, and I do a show about MMO gaming usually. Well, the thing is that through gaming, we can gain a lot of insight to the real world. Sometimes it's a little disturbing. I've been playing a lot of Defiance lately. It's pretty mindless and I like the idea of sniping and gunplay. The game ties into a TV show on Sci-Fi Network, so it tries to include plot lines from the show, and apparently one of those is The Infected.
What the hell is going on, Aaron?
I fear this is stage 4 of the plague. There is nothing I can do to save them.
That's the general gist of it. Civilians are infected with this disease, it's contagious, and it's up to you to stop them. Somehow you're immune from this disease as you wade knee-deep in infected blood and internal organs while blasting away the whole time. You may have just caught what I said there. It's up to you to stop them. Basically, you're a bipedal quarantine barrier with enough firepower to bring down the Yamato. Pick one. And this is what I mean by disturbing. I mean, I understand why they do this. You create waves of enemies, players really don't feel bad about just mowing them down without mercy, but in this case, what disturbs me is at the end of the trailer. These aren't mindless zombies, these are people looking for help, and the best the game can come up with is basically akin to genocide, so why? Well, it could be argued that the game designers don't think it's fun to find a cure for a disease as much as it is fun to kill waves of enemies. And it's certainly empowering to average players. I mean, you get to feel like a badass, but it sends a message that I just can't ignore. Every filthy pervert will be blown away. Okay, sure, that's low-hanging fruit, even by this show's standards, but there are plenty of people who actually feel this way. The fact that this is what Google auto-completes on this particular phrase should make you feel a little sickened. Game companies are in the business of fun, and honestly, what's more fun? Sitting in a boring lab trying to get the exact measurements right so that you can figure out the cure for some disease, or going out there with a fully automatic gun and just mowing down waves of faceless enemies. Perspective shift. I wasn't around for this incident, but the World of Warcraft corrupted blood stuff, it'll prove my point nicely, and I could tell you all about it, but let me hand the stage over to Nina Pfefferman. She's a PhD whose research falls under epidemiology.
There was a beautiful accidental epidemic in World of Warcraft called corrupted blood, where people started exploding in little clouds of blood and dropping in dead skeletons, and it was really actually very good for panicking the player base, even though death is not really a big deal. Isn't that awesome? But it's not the case that we're using this in order to say what will actually happen. What we're doing is mining it for inspiration about the sorts of things we should consider in the real world. And already there are 2 of those from looking in virtual worlds that we hadn't thought of as epidemiological modelers before we looked at the behavior in the virtual space. And those are empathy and curiosity. Things that do motivate people during risky scenarios, but that we hadn't been including in our epidemiological models until then.
That's a very powerful concept, using the virtual world to see what people would do in the real world. And at least in the virtual world, given the opportunity and the power to do so, a lot of people would rather stop or solve a problem rather than just gun it down. There's a reason I'm using this example. It explains the tie-in with the Red Ribbon Reviewer Project. When HIV was first being reported, the words epidemic were used. A lot.
National Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta today released the results of a study which shows that the lifestyle of some male homosexuals has triggered an epidemic of a rare form of cancer.
Federal health officials consider it an epidemic.
It's known that it's the homosexual community worldwide that is mostly the target for the AIDS plague at this moment.
So it's not really that much of a stretch here. Scientists have learned a lot since the 80s, and we need situations that scientists can study and learn from. I'll come back to this, but before I do, I want to talk about game design here. Something else that Professor Pfefferman said made me ear perk a little.
And so, on a closing note, I'd encourage all of you, and no matter what is driving you and about what you're passionate, to bring every aspect of your life into it. So, thank you very much.
I think this is also a lesson for game designers, that you can make something fun without having to resort to full auto mayhem. Ear perk. You know, it's like what dogs do when you say something weird at them. Oh? let's go back to Defiance, because they've got this whole thing set up with the Plague already in world. Now there's an opportunity here to do some hardcore real-world research and give players a chance to affect their game world. Let's give people an opportunity to help. It could even be a really cool world event. Well, let's start by, I don't know, helping researchers collect data from high-risk places, something that we kind of already do. Now after a while, you could have a mission that's a vaccine run, a race mission if you want. So let's say you have 10 minutes to get from point A to point B before the vaccine goes bad, and you have to drive it to point B. Now in Defiance, this isn't as easy as it sounds, because a lot of the roads have bad guys blockading the roads, like every 750 feet sometimes. So it'd be a good daily challenge, not to mention it's something that actually has already happened in the past. Why do you think the Iditarod even exists? Now the research part. Now give people a choice whether they want to do the mission or not. You can even have a counter mission that thwart it that has an equal reward just to see if people would do it. Or they can just do nothing. I think the results would really be eye-opening, to say the very least. Then again, I'm also a racing fan, so combining MMOs with racing, awesome. Yeah, I know, I keep on talking about research, but one of the things that Professor Pfefferman said in reference to the corrupted blood incident was that gaming could save the world. Now, that's a pretty bold statement, but it's something I could actually see. In this Gamer Sutra article, Pfefferman is quoted as wanting to study how risk is perceived, you know, how rumors spread and so on, and it really wouldn't be too hard to set in motion on the server side of things. Mind you, for a true test, the players would have to be oblivious to the testing, so there are ethics issues to be considered. I mean, would players rage quit a game once it's revealed it was all some sort of an experiment? Would it ruin the gameplay? Would players turn on each other and start ostracizing those who get an infection? To gather all this data, you'd have to leave the game world and head into forums, videos, thousands of comments, and dozens of places. The data for something like this would be massive, but it would be invaluable. But going back, I think gamers would help something like this happen. Even if they knew it was going on, and even if they tried to sabotage things, it would produce data that epidemiologists could use, because in the real world, people intentionally spread diseases out of spite or for a higher purpose or whatever. But scientists need research data, and a player pool of thousands of participants would give them that. But let's bring this back to the beginning. How would a virtual world experiment help HIV research? HIV does not work the same way as the flu or diphtheria. You can't stand next to someone and just catch it. That didn't stop paranoia way back in the day, though. It's why back in the 80s and 90s the main focus was on educating the public about HIV. Not that it always worked.
It's not really something that concerns high school students, I don't think.
I don't know. I don't think anybody would, do that unless they're, homosexuals or something.
But that was then, and in the 30 years since, we've been walloped with so much raw data to the point that many experts don't even understand how we take it in anymore, let alone how we can. So, among other things, seeing how gamers would pass along information about something affecting them in-world would be valuable for epidemiologists. Then they could advise governments on how to get information to people faster and better. So we really could save the world through gaming. Who'd have thunk it? I want to end this on a note that might end up sounding preachy, but that's not my intention. HIV, as of this recording, has no cure. Now I could sit here and I could spout numbers and statistics at you, but in the end, they're just numbers and statistics. It doesn't have a lot of meaning to it. So let me just put this very simply. If you are sexually active, practice safe sex, use a condom, get tested. If you happen to use intravenous drugs for whatever reason, use a clean needle, don't share needles, don't share syringes, get tested. A lot of free clinics out there, no reason not to get tested. Then you can follow some links. I'm going to provide one for the Red Ribbon Reviewer Project down here. You can start there, or you can just do some research on your own. The best weapon you have in this fight is information. Information is power. Get powerful. Let me mention one more thing. I was about to strike the set. So I'm actually doing this right now on the 24th of December, 2013. And yeah, the entire goal, because of everything else going on, because of the holiday stuff, I wanted to get all this done before midnight tonight. And right now I am racing John, an MMO grinder, because he's kind of in the same situation I'm in. So I think he's going to win this race. I think he's going to get his show up before I get this show up. Doesn't matter. For everybody else out there, have a happy Christmas. I'll see you guys at the end of the new year.